Oh, I'm Susan Slaughter, and I've been to every WUSS conference except for the very first one because I couldn't get childcare. But I've been to every one since then. But this WUSS is entirely different because I am doing two things that were quite new. One is I taught a half-day class, Introduction to Enterprise Guide, which went well. And I have volunteered to be the secretary for the WUSS Executive Committee. WUSS is my favorite conference. It's better. I love SGF, but if I had to choose between the two, I would choose WUSS because it's so much more friendly and intimate, and I learn just as much. So I feel like it's my turn to pay back some of this benefit that I've gotten.
What would you say the major differences are between a regional such as WUSS compared to SAS Global Forum, which is a little bit larger?
Okay. Well, the obvious difference between a regional and a global conference is the size, but what that means is that, as I mentioned, it's much more intimate. You meet colleagues and get to actually talk to them, maybe get to know them if you come back every year. You can develop professional relationships that are very beneficial. And when you go into the demo room, you don't have to wait an hour to talk to a developer. You can just walk right up in most cases. And so you have all the things that are good about SAS Global Forum, but better.
That's great.
My personal opinion.
You co-author a couple of books. Can you tell us what those books are titled and what they're about?
I'd be happy to. Thank you, Si, for asking. No, Laura Delwich and I are authors of the Little SAS Book and the Little SAS Book for Enterprise Guide. And unfortunately, it's a little confusing with the titles. Some people think that the Enterprise Guide book has superseded the original book, but that's not true. The Little SAS book is the SAS programming book, and the Enterprise Guide book is the point-and-click book. And so you could use either one. If you write programs in SAS, then you could use both. I mean, if you write programs in Enterprise Guide and use that as your programming interface, then you could use both together. So they really complement each other.
How long did it take you to publish those and write those two books? Is it a long process?
Oh, well, any individual book, to write a book from scratch is probably about 2 years. To revise a book, the work is just as hard, but it does go faster. So that takes somewhere between 6 months and a year, probably usually more like the year. And but we've done a lot of new additions. People don't realize, since we're revising the same book, how hard we've worked, but we've done 6 books in the last 8 years. So when you think that those took 1 to 2 years each, that's pretty intense.
Do you have any recommendations for someone that aspires to write a book, how they would go about structuring and methods of actually publishing it?
If you want to write a book for SAS Press, I would definitely encourage you to pursue that. On the SAS Press website, supports.sas.com, there's a link for Write for SAS Press, and they have materials there, and they tell you who to contact. Is that what you meant, or do you mean more like the writing process? And
also the writing process, because I'm sure that's the bulk of the work.
Yeah, I would say that the hardest part is getting started, and the further you go, the more the project begins to roll along and draw you with it. It gets easier. So the important part then is to get started.
Do you find that working with another writer like Laura, with collaborating as compared to just writing a book yourself, is that a better process, an easier one, or is it more challenging?
Well, it's been better for us. It depends, of course, on the people, and Laura and I are fortunate that our philosophy of how books should be organized and what's important just happens to naturally be similar. So that's what allows us to work together. But I've heard other people say that it didn't always work that way for them.
Now that the WUSS conference here in San Diego is ending, what would you say the few things that you got from either talks or presentations that you thought were valuable that you learned from here?
Well, I really enjoyed the presentation, the keynote by Art, the very humorous keynote, and also Kirk Lafler's "You Might Be a SAS Nerd If."
Right.
That was really fun, and but in terms of serious content, I think it's very interesting that a lot of people are starting to get into Enterprise Guide and ODS graphics, and it's interesting to see what they're doing.
If you had to choose one particular trend that you saw as dominant in the conference, from a SAS technology standpoint, what do you think that would be?
I don't know. Hard question.
Do you think more like graph, or is it web, or is it ODS, or what do you think some of those things are?
Maybe since you asked for one dominant thread, I'd say visualization, and a lot of things fit under that. Point-and-click interfaces, better graphics. I think a lot of things that are being done now are making both the process and the output more visual.
Great. Now that you've been to WUSS and compared to other regionals and global forum, is there a particular cultural element that makes it distinctive and different?
Is there something that makes WUSS different?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, each regional is different. I don't know, it's a little hard to put my finger on, but WUSS is particularly well organized, and the expertise of the people who come to WUSS and who present at WUSS is particularly deep.
That's great. All right, thanks, Susan.